The Kingdom of Oyo was a land of abundance, where the rivers flowed with a life-giving current and the fields yielded golden crops. The people of Oyo lived in peace and prosperity under the wise and benevolent rule of Queen Adeola and her husband, King Olujimi. The queen's beauty was matched only by her intelligence, and together, the royal couple brought a golden age to their realm. Yet, within the palace walls, dark forces began to stir. Queen Adeola's sister, Adesuwa, watched with a burning envy as the kingdom flourished. Adesuwa, once a beloved figure in the court, had grown bitter over the years. She felt overshadowed by her sister's brilliance and resented her own lower standing. The sight of Queen Adeola's sons, young Prince Adedayo and Prince Ayatand, only deepened her malice. They were the heirs to a throne she believed should belong to her own son, Prince Ikena. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over the palace, Adesuwa made her way to a secluded part of the royal gardens. Here, under the ancient baobab tree, she met with Baba Olufemi, a sorcerer feared and shunned by many. His eyes gleamed with knowledge of the dark arts, and his voice carried the weight of forbidden secrets. "Welcome, Princess Adesuwa," Baba Olufemi intoned, his voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "What brings you to seek my counsel?" Adesuwa's face was a mask of determination. "I want my sister gone, Baba. Her and her sons. My son, Ikena, should be the one to inherit the throne." The sorcerer nodded slowly, his gaze penetrating. "Such a desire comes at a great cost, Adesuwa. The spirits do not grant power without demanding a price." "I am willing to pay any price," she replied, her voice steady. "Just tell me what needs to be done." Baba Olufemi's eyes narrowed as he reached into his robes and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. "Within this box lies the first step to achieving your goal. It contains a potion that will turn love into suspicion, trust into fear. Administer it to the queen, and watch as her world begins to unravel." Adesuwa took the box, her fingers trembling slightly. "And what of her sons?" "Their time will come," Baba Olufemi said ominously. "But first, you must sow the seeds of discord. We will meet again when the shadows grow longer." As Adesuwa slipped back into the palace, she felt a grim satisfaction settle over her. She had taken the first step toward reclaiming what she believed was rightfully hers. That night, while the kingdom slept, Adesuwa entered the queen's chambers, the potion hidden in a vial beneath her cloak. She poured it into the jug of water beside Adeola's bed, her movements swift and silent. Days turned into weeks, and Queen Adeola began to change. She grew wary of those around her, her once warm and open heart now closed off by an invisible barrier. She questioned the loyalty of her advisors, the faithfulness of her servants, and even the love of her husband. King Olujimi, perplexed by his wife's sudden transformation, sought answers but found none. Prince Adedayo and Prince Ayatand, sensing the shift in their mother's demeanor, tried to comfort her, but their efforts were in vain. The once harmonious palace now echoed with tension and unease. Adesuwa watched from the shadows, her heart cold with satisfaction as her plan began to take root. But the sorcerer's warning echoed in her mind. The price of power was steep, and the path she had chosen was fraught with peril. As the first storm clouds gathered on the horizon, Adesuwa steeled herself for the battles ahead, knowing that her jealousy would either elevate her or destroy her. In the depths of the night, when the world was silent, Queen Adeola lay awake, her mind a tumultuous sea of doubt and fear. She did not know it yet, but the shadows of betrayal had begun to weave their web around her, and the Kingdom of Oyo stood on the brink of a darkness that would test its very soul. The sun rose over the Kingdom of Oyo, casting a golden light on the bustling marketplace and the verdant fields beyond. Yet, within the palace walls, the atmosphere remained heavy and strained. Queen Adeola, once the heart of the court, now moved like a ghost, her face pale and eyes haunted. King Olujimi, determined to understand the cause of his wife's sudden change, summoned the royal healer and the wisest elders. They could find no physical ailment nor any curse that might explain her transformation. Each passing day, the queen grew more suspicious and withdrawn, and the seeds of discord Adesuwa had sown began to bear their bitter fruit. Adesuwa's son, Prince Ikena, a handsome and ambitious young man, watched the unfolding drama with a mixture of curiosity and excitement. He had long harbored dreams of power, dreams his mother had nurtured with whispers of his destined greatness. Adesuwa, however, warned him to be patient, promising that the time for action would soon come. One evening, as the palace prepared for a grand feast in honor of the harvest season, Queen Adeola received an anonymous note. The words, written in an elegant yet unfamiliar hand, hinted at a conspiracy within the palace. The note suggested that those closest to her could not be trusted and that danger lurked in every corner. Gripped by paranoia, Adeola's eyes darted around the room, suspicion clouding her judgment. Her thoughts turned to her sons, and a new fear took root: what if someone sought to harm them? In her mind, the walls of the palace seemed to close in, and the faces she had known and trusted now appeared sinister and deceitful. Adesuwa, sensing her sister's mounting distress, approached her with feigned concern. "My dear sister, you seem troubled," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Is there something I can do to help?" Adeola looked at Adesuwa, her eyes narrowing. For a moment she hesitated, the bond of sisterhood clashing with the shadow of doubt. "It is nothing," she replied curtly, turning away. But the note burned in her hand, a constant reminder of the unseen threat. Meanwhile, Prince Adedayo and Prince Ayatan noticed their mother's increasing distance. They tried to engage her, to draw her back from the brink of her growing paranoia, but she rebuffed their attempts. The brothers, confused and hurt, confided in each other, seeking solace in their bond. One night, as the full moon bathed the palace in a silver glow, Adedayo crept into the library. He had decided to uncover the source of his mother's distress. As he searched through old scrolls and texts, hoping to find a clue, he stumbled upon a hidden compartment in one of the shelves. Inside, he found a small, intricately carved wooden box, its design familiar yet strange. Opening the box, Adedayo found it empty, save for a faint residue of a dark liquid. His heart raced as he realized that this might be linked to his mother's sudden change. He took the box to his brother Ayatan, and together they pondered its significance. "We need to find out where this came from," Ayatan said, his voice determined. "If this is connected to mother's condition, we must act quickly." The next morning, the brothers sought out Baba Adiwale, an elder known for his wisdom and knowledge of ancient traditions. They presented the box to him, explaining their suspicions. Baba Adiwale examined it carefully, his brow furrowing. "This box," he said slowly, "is of a kind used by practitioners of the dark arts. It is possible that someone has tampered with your mother's mind using a powerful potion. We must be cautious and deliberate in uncovering the truth." As the brothers left Baba Adiwale's hut, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They knew their task could be dangerous, but they were determined to save their mother and protect their kingdom from the shadows threatening to consume it. In the palace, Adesuwa watched the unfolding events with a mixture of satisfaction and trepidation. She had achieved her initial goal, but she knew that her plan was far from complete. The time for subtlety was passing, then soon she would have to make bolder moves to secure her son's future. The feast of the harvest was in full swing, the grand hall of the palace alive with music, laughter, and the rich aroma of roasted meats and spices. Yet, beneath the veneer of celebration, the tension was palpable. Queen Adeola, seated beside King Olujimi, wore a strained smile, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of suspicion and unease. Adesuwa, radiant in a deep emerald gown, watched her sister intently, satisfaction mingling with a growing anxiety. She knew that the potion's effects were escalating, but she also sensed that her time was running out. Prince Ikena, seated beside his mother, exuded confidence, unaware of the full extent of his mother's schemes but ready to seize any opportunity that arose. Meanwhile, Prince Adesuwa and Prince Ayatan remained vigilant. The discovery of the empty box had heightened their resolve, and they had spent the days since consulting with Baba Adewale, seeking any information that might help them understand their mother's affliction. The elder had warned them to proceed cautiously, but they were determined to confront the unknown threat head-on. As the evening wore on, the royal couple made their way to the center of the hall to address their guests. King Olujimi's voice boomed with authority and warmth as he thanked the people for their hard work and loyalty. Queen Odeola, though her voice lacked its usual warmth, spoke of unity and prosperity. The crowd cheered, but Adesuwa noticed a flicker of unease in his mother's eyes. After the speeches, the music resumed, and the guests returned to their revelry. Adesuwa and Ayatan slipped away from the hall, making their way to the royal gardens where they had arranged to meet Baba Adewale in secret. The elder was waiting for them, his face grave. Baba, Adesuwa began, we need to know more about this box and the potion it contained. Who could have done this to our mother? Baba Adewale nodded slowly. The box is indeed used for dark purposes, but identifying the sorcerer responsible is no simple task. We must look for signs, traces of their magic. Have you noticed anyone behaving strangely or any unusual occurrences in the palace? The brothers exchanged a glance. There is one person, Ayatan said hesitantly. Aunt Adesuwa. She has been very attentive to mother lately, more than usual. Baba Adewale's eyes narrowed. Adesuwa, her jealousy has always been evident, but to use such means. We must be certain before we act. I will perform a ritual to seek guidance from the spirits. Meet me at the sacred grove at dawn. As the brothers returned to the feast, they felt a mixture of hope and dread. They knew that if Adesuwa was indeed behind their mother's condition, confronting her would be dangerous. Yet, they were resolved to uncover the truth and restore their mother's peace of mind. The dawn broke with a sense of foreboding, the sky tinged with hues of grey. Adesuwa and Ayatan arrived at the sacred grove, a serene clearing surrounded by ancient trees. Baba Adewale was already there, preparing the ritual. He motioned for them to sit in a circle around a small fire. The elder chanted softly, invoking the spirits of their ancestors. The air grew heavy, and the flames flickered with an unnatural intensity. Suddenly, the fire flared up, and a figure appeared within the flames, an ethereal woman with eyes like burning embers. I am Oranmila, the spirit of wisdom, the figure intoned. You seek the truth behind the darkness that has befallen your mother. The brothers nodded, their eyes wide with awe. Yes, Oranmila. Please, tell us what we must do to save her. Oranmela's gaze shifted to Baba Adewale. The one who cast this spell is close, driven by envy and jealousy. You must confront her with evidence, but beware, her power is not to be underestimated. Only by uniting the strength of your hearts can you overcome this peril. The fire died down, and Oranmila's figure faded. Baba Adewale looked at the brothers, his expression serious. We have our answer. Adesuwa's jealousy has led her to these dark deeds. We must proceed with caution and gather the evidence needed to expose her. Adesuwa and Ayatan left the grove with renewed determination. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but they were prepared to face whatever came to protect their mother and their kingdom. As they approached the palace, the first rays of the sun broke through the clouds, casting a hopeful light on the path before them. Inside the palace, Adesuwa sensed a shift in the air. She knew the time for subtlety was over. The game she had started was nearing its climax, and she would need to be prepared for the final move. The Kingdom of Oyo stood on the brink of a storm, and the clash between truth and deceit was about to reach its crescendo. The Palace of Oyo was a hive of activity as preparations for the Midsummer Festival intensified. Despite the festivities, a palpable tension lay beneath the surface, and the air was thick with anticipation and suspicion. Queen Odeola, more paranoid than ever, confined herself to her chambers, her trust eroded by the potion's insidious effects. King Olujimi, torn between his love for his wife and his duty to the kingdom, sought solace in his duties, hoping to maintain a semblance of normalcy. In the shadows, Adesuwa's unease grew. She had sensed the shift after the ritual in the sacred grove and knew the brothers were closing in on the truth. Yet, she was determined to see her plan through. She steeled herself for the confrontation she knew was inevitable. Prince Adedeyo and Prince Ayatand, having returned from the sacred grove with Baba Adiwale's guidance, began their quiet investigation. They watched Adesuwa closely, seeking any sign that might confirm their suspicions. Their first breakthrough came when they overheard a conversation between Adesuwa and one of her trusted servants in a secluded corner of the garden. "The queen grows weaker by the day," Adesuwa said, her voice a whisper. "Ensure that our preparations are in place. We must act before the festival ends." The brothers exchanged a glance, their resolve hardening. They knew they had to act swiftly and gather concrete evidence before confronting Adesuwa. That night, while the palace slept, Adedeyo and Ayatand made their way to Adesuwa's chambers. The door was slightly ajar, and they slipped inside, moving silently in the dim light. They searched the room carefully, mindful of the risk. In a hidden compartment beneath Adesuwa's bed, they found a small leather-bound book filled with notes in her handwriting. The pages detailed her plans to undermine Queen Odeola and hinted at her use of dark magic. With the book in hand, they hurried to Baba Adiwale's hut, waking the elder with their urgent knocking. Baba Adiwale read the notes, his face growing grimmer with each page. "This is the evidence we need," he said. "But confronting Adesuwa directly will be dangerous. We must reveal this to the king and gather his support." The next morning, as the palace awoke to the sounds of festival preparations, Adedeyo and Ayatand requested an audience with their father. In the privacy of his study, they presented the book to King Olujimi and recounted their findings. The king's face darkened with anger and sorrow as he read the treacherous words. "My own sister-in-law," he muttered, shaking his head. "How could she betray us so? We must act quickly, Father," Adedeyo urged, "before she can cause any more harm." King Olujimi nodded, his resolve firming. "We will confront her tonight, after the festival's final ceremony. Until then, we must keep this secret and ensure she suspects nothing." As the day wore on, the tension in the palace mounted. Queen Odeola, unaware of the brewing confrontation, attended the festival with a hollow smile. Adesuwa, too, played her part, her demeanor betraying no hint of her hidden machinations. That evening, as the sun set and the final ceremony began, the palace courtyard was filled with the sounds of drums and singing. The royal family took their places on the dais, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows across their faces. King Olujimi stood and raised his hands for silence. "People of Oyo," he began, his voice steady, "tonight we celebrate not only the bounty of our land but also the unity of our kingdom. Yet, there are those among us who would seek to destroy this unity." A murmur rippled through the crowd as the king's words hung in the air. Adesuwa stiffened, her eyes darting to the king. "Adesuwa," King Olujimi continued, his gaze locking onto hers, "you have been accused of treachery and dark magic against the queen and the kingdom. Step forward and answer for your actions." The crowd gasped, then Adesuwa's face twisted with fury and fear. "Lies," she spat, her voice rising. "This is a plot against me." Prince Adedeyo and Prince Ayatand stepped forward, holding up the leather-bound book. "We have proof of your treachery, Adesuwa," Adedeyo said. "This book contains your plans to undermine our mother and the kingdom." Adesuwa's eyes flashed with desperation. "You fools! You don't understand the forces you're meddling with." Before anyone could react, she pulled a small vial from her sleeve and hurled it to the ground. The vial shattered, releasing a cloud of dark smoke that enveloped her. When the smoke cleared, Adesuwa was gone, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. King Olujimi turned to the assembled guests, his face grave. "We will find her and bring her to justice. The safety of our kingdom depends on it." As the crowd dispersed, murmuring in shock and fear, Adedeyo and Ayatand exchanged a determined look. Their battle was far from over, but they had taken the first step in uncovering the truth. They would find Adesuwa, and they would restore their mother's peace of mind and the stability of their kingdom. In the darkness beyond the palace walls, Adesuwa fled into the night, her mind racing. She had underestimated the strength of her nephews and the resolve of the king. But she was not defeated yet. She would bide her time, gather her strength, and return to claim what she believed was rightfully hers. The Kingdom of Oyo, now aware of the shadows within, braced itself for the trials to come. The true battle for the throne had only just begun. The dawn after Adesuwa's dramatic escape cast a subdued light over the palace of Oyo. The previous night's revelations weighed heavily on the minds of the royal family and their loyal subjects. Queen Odeola, still under the potion's influence, remained in her chambers, her paranoia now mingled with confusion over her sister's betrayal. King Olujimi wasted no time in organizing a search for Adesuwa. He called upon his most trusted warriors and advisors to devise a plan to capture her. Adedeyo and Ayatand, determined to see justice served, joined their father in these efforts, their resolve unwavering. "We must be cautious," King Olujimi said, addressing the gathered warriors in the council chamber. "Adesuwa has proven she is willing to use dark magic. We must anticipate her every move and ensure she does not harm anyone else." Baba Adiwale, having been summoned to the meeting, nodded in agreement. Adesuwa will likely seek out Baba Olufemi, the sorcerer who provided her with the potion. "We should start our search there." The decision made, Adedeyo, Ayatand, and a group of skilled warriors set out towards the remote part of the kingdom where Baba Olufemi was rumored to dwell. The journey was arduous, the path winding through dense forests and treacherous terrain. As they traveled, the brothers reflected on the gravity of their mission. "She was always envious," Ayatand said quietly. "But to go this far, it's hard to believe." Adedeyo nodded, his expression grim. "We have to stop her. For mother, and for the kingdom." The forest grew thicker as they approached Baba Olufemi's lair. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and the sounds of unseen creatures rustling in the underbrush. As they neared their destination, Baba Adiwale, who had accompanied them to provide guidance, signaled for them to halt. "This is where the path ends," he said. "We must proceed with caution. Baba Olufemi is a powerful sorcerer, and his magic is unpredictable." The group advanced stealthily, weapons at the ready. The heart of Baba Olufemi came into view, a dilapidated structure shrouded in shadow. The air around it seemed to hum with an unnatural energy. Adedeyo and Ayatand exchanged a look of determination before stepping forward. As they approached the entrance, the door creaked open, revealing the sorcerer himself. Baba Olufemi's eyes gleamed with a malevolent intelligence, his lips curling into a knowing smile. "Welcome, Princess of Oyo," he said, his voice a sinister whisper. "I have been expecting you." Adedeyo stepped forward, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "We are here for Adesuwa. Where is she?" Baba Olufemi chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down their spines. "Your aunt is not here. She has fled deeper into the forest, seeking refuge among those who practice the darkest of magics. But do not worry, I can guide you to her, for a price." Ayatand's eyes narrowed. "And what price would that be?" The sorcerer's smile widened. "I seek only knowledge. A fragment of your family's history, a secret that has been guarded for generations. Give me this, and I will reveal Adesuwa's hiding place." Baba Adiwale stepped forward, his expression stern. "You ask for what you do not understand, Olufemi. The knowledge you seek is dangerous, even for one as powerful as you. Baba Olufemi's eyes flashed with impatience. Then you must decide, your secrets or your sister-in-law. Adedeyo and Ayatand looked to Baba Adiwale, who sighed deeply. We have little choice. We must save the queen and protect the kingdom. Reluctantly, Baba Adiwale began to speak, revealing a fragment of the ancient law that had been passed down through the generations of Oyo's rulers. Baba Olufemi listened intently, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of greed and fascination. When the elder finished, the sorcerer nodded in satisfaction. Very well. Adesuwa is hiding in the Valley of Shadows, a place where light rarely penetrates, and the spirits of the damned linger. Be warned, she is more dangerous than ever, and her desperation makes her a formidable foe. With this knowledge, the group set off once more, their resolve stronger than ever. The Valley of Shadows lay to the north, a desolate and eerie place shunned by most. The journey there was fraught with peril, the landscape growing darker and more foreboding with each step. As they neared the valley, a thick fog enveloped them, and the air grew colder. The warriors tightened their grips on their weapons, their senses heightened. In the distance, the outline of a figure appeared through the mist. Adedeyo signaled for the group to halt, his eyes narrowing. Prepare yourselves. This could be a trap. The figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be Adesuwa, her face twisted with rage and desperation. Her hands crackled with dark energy, and her eyes burned with an unholy light. You have come far, my nephews, she hissed. But this is where your journey ends. I will not be taken so easily. With a cry, she unleashed a wave of dark magic, the air shimmering with its malevolent force. The warriors raised their shields, but the power of her attack sent them staggering. Adedeyo and Ayatand, undeterred, pressed forward, their hearts burning with the desire to protect their mother and their kingdom. The battle that ensued was fierce and unrelenting. Adesuwa's magic clashed with the brothers' swords, each strike a test of their strength and resolve. Baba Adiwale, chanting ancient incantations, worked to weaken Adesuwa's power, creating openings for the brothers to attack. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Adedeyo managed to disarm Adesuwa, his sword at her throat. It's over, Grant. Surrender. Adesuwa, breathing heavily, looked around at the defeated warriors and the determined faces of her nephews. Her shoulders sagged, and the dark energy around her dissipated. You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. The darkness within me will never die. Ayatan stepped forward, binding her hands. You will face justice for your crimes. The Kingdom of Oyo will heal from your treachery. As they led Adesuwa back to the palace, the fog began to lift, and the first light of dawn broke through the trees. The journey was long, but the weight of their mission gave them strength. They knew the path to healing would be difficult, but they were ready to face it together. Upon their return, the people of Oyo greeted them with relief and gratitude. King Olujimi embraced his sons, his eyes filled with pride and sorrow. Queen Adeola, slowly recovering from the effects of the potion, wept with joy at the sight of her sons and husband, their love a beacon of hope in the dark times. Adesuwa was imprisoned, her powers sealed by Baba Adiwale's magic. Though her threat was contained, the kingdom knew that vigilance was necessary to prevent such darkness from rising again. The Kingdom of Oyo had barely begun to heal from the wounds inflicted by Adesuwa's treachery when a new storm broke upon the palace. It was an ordinary night, the moon casting a serene glow over the sleeping kingdom, when the silence was shattered by the sounds of battle. Baba Olufemi, armed with the dangerous knowledge he had extracted from the royal family, launched a surprise attack on the palace. His dark magic turned the night into chaos, and the royal guards, caught and prepared, struggled to fend off the assault. Amidst the turmoil, Baba Olufemi made his way to the dungeons, breaking Adesuwa out of her cell. Quickly, we have no time to waste, Olufemi urged, his eyes burning with a mad brilliance. Adesuwa, weakened but filled with a renewed resolve, followed him, her heart pounding with the anticipation of revenge. In the royal chambers, King Olujimi and Queen Odeola awoke to the sounds of clashing swords and shouted orders. Prince Adedayo and Ayatand, already on high alert, rushed to their parents' side. "They are attacking the palace," Adedayo said, his voice grim. "We must defend it at all costs." The family, united in their determination, moved to face the threat. The battle raged through the corridors and courtyards of the palace, the air thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded. Baba Olufemi's dark magic struck fear into the hearts of the defenders, his power amplified by the forbidden knowledge he had acquired. As Adedayo and Ayatan fought valiantly alongside their father, a shadow slipped through the chaos. Prince Ekena, his mind twisted by his mother's jealousy and his own hunger for the throne, approached King Olujimi with a vial of poison concealed in his hand. "Uncle," Ekena called out, his voice trembling with feigned concern. "I have come to help." King Olujimi, preoccupied with the battle, did not notice the deceit in his nephew's eyes. As Ekena moved closer, he quickly poured the contents of the vial into a cup and handed it to the king. "Drink this, it will give you strength," Ekena urged. Without hesitation, King Olujimi drank from the cup. Moments later, he staggered, the poison coursing through his veins, rendering him powerless. Ekena's betrayal became clear, and the king fell to the ground, his vision blurry. Adedayo, witnessing the treachery, roared with fury and charged at Ekena. The two cousins clashed, their swords ringing out in the night. The battle was fierce and desperate, but Adedayo's rage fueled his strength. With a final, powerful strike, he slew Ekena, his body crumpling to the ground. But the victory was bittersweet. As Adedayo turned to aid his family, he saw Ayatan engaged in a deadly duel with Baba Olufemi. The sorcerer's dark magic crackled in the air, and despite Ayatan's skill and bravery, he was no match for Olufemi's sorcery. A bolt of dark energy struck Ayatan, and he fell, his lifeless eyes staring up at the night sky. "No!" Adedayo screamed, rushing to his brother's side. But it was too late. Ayatan was gone. The battle raged on, and Baba Adiwale, sensing the tide turning against them, gathered his remaining strength. He confronted Baba Olufemi, their powers clashing in a titanic struggle. The air shimmered with magical energy as the two elders fought, their faces set in grim determination. "Your dark knowledge will not prevail, Olufemi," Baba Adiwale intoned, his voice resonating with ancient power. "The light of Oyo will not be extinguished." With a final, desperate surge of power, Baba Adiwale unleashed a powerful spell that overwhelmed Baba Olufemi, consuming him in a blaze of light. But the effort was too much for the elder. He collapsed, his life force spent in the effort to save the kingdom. Adedayo, filled with a mixture of grief and determination, turned to find Adesuwa. But she was already upon him. With a cry of vengeance for her fallen son, she struck him down, casting him into the dungeons. Queen Odeola, her heart breaking from the loss of her son and the betrayal of her sister, stood alone to face Adesuwa. The two sisters, once close, now faced each other as bitter enemies. "This ends now, Adesuwa," Odeola said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You will pay for your crimes against our family and our kingdom." Adesuwa sneered, her eyes filled with madness. "You think you can defeat me, sister? I have nothing left to lose." The battle between the sisters was fierce and personal, each blow a testament to their shared history and the love that had turned to hatred. As they fought, the palace walls seemed to tremble, the very fabric of their world at stake. In the midst of the battle, Baba Adiwale, his strength fading, used his last breath to cast a protective spell over Queen Odeola. The magic enveloped her, giving her the strength she needed to finally overcome her sister. With a powerful strike, Odeola disarmed Adesuwa and plunged her sword into her heart. Adesuwa gasped, her eyes wide with shock and pain. You have one sister, she whispered, her voice fading. But the darkness, it will always be there. As Adesuwa fell, her life slipping away, Queen Odeola knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face. I loved you, Adesuwa, she said softly. But your choices left me no other path. The battle over, the palace of Oyo stood in solemn silence. The cost of victory had been high. King Olujimi, weakened but alive, was tended to by healers. Adedayo, freed from the dungeons, mourned the loss of his brother and the sacrifices made. The kingdom, although battered and bruised, had survived. The legacy of the royal family, their courage and resilience, would endure. And the story of their trials, their losses, and their ultimate triumph would be told for generations to come, a testament to the strength of family and the power of light over darkness. In the days that followed, Queen Odeola and King Olujimi worked to restore peace and order to their kingdom. Adedayo, now the sole heir, took on greater responsibilities, his heart heavy with the memory of those they had lost but resolved to honor their legacy. And so, the Kingdom of Oyo, tempered by fire and shadow, emerged stronger, its people united by the bonds of love and loyalty, ready to face whatever the future might hold. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more stories from us, feel free to show some love by hitting that like and subscribe button. Your support means everything to us, and it is what makes our stories possible. We hope to see you in the next video. Until then, farewell.